Right now, at this time, we're going to welcome in Cumberland County baseball coach Keith Gorman. Good morning, Coach.
Thanks for having us, man.
Hey, what's happening, bud?
Good.
Thanks for taking a few minutes. I know you got a long day today, so.
Yep, absolutely. Just getting ready for playoffs, but it's nice to take a seat here and talk to you all.
Always great talking some baseball, man. And you got first of all, congrats on win number 300. That's a pretty amazing feat at a community college in only 8 seasons. I mean, you're averaging close to 38 wins a year. What's your secret, man?
Well, you got to get good players. So that's I don't think that's any secret. And then once you get them in here, we've got to do our job and develop them. And the best ways to develop them are through the weight room, which is a staple at our program here, and then on the practice field. And then I've always said this: if we're if they're doing their job in the classroom, the field becomes a little bit easier. So the wins and losses take care of themselves if you're doing those things right.
Now, Coach, take me back to when you first took this job. You had a pretty good gig going on at Holy Spirit. You were the baseball coach and I believe the athletic director. So you were kind of entrenched in that community. And I read the piece that Mike McGarry wrote about you. I think it was in yesterday's paper. But you can check that out on PressVC.com. And your old man kind of said, dude, what are you doing, man? You're nuts.
Yeah, I think there was, everybody was really supportive around me when I finally made the decision. And make no mistake, my father, as soon as I told him I was going to do it, he was very supportive. And I'm the man I am because of him and all the other great people that have the great leaders that have been in my life. And but it was a little risky. Cumberland County College athletically, I don't know that many people knew anything about it. The baseball program had really been in trouble for about 10 years. So the thing that drew me there is they had a great young athletic director who was serious about turning the place around. And they just built a brand new facility, and I thought it was an area I could recruit to. I was looking to make the move to college at some point, but it was tough leaving Holy Spirit. I was the athletic director there. One of my great friends, Bill Walsh, I hope Walsh, he's listening right now. He had turned the football program around there. We were having a lot of success there, and we won back-to-back Cape Atlantic League championships in baseball, and we're really pushing for a state run. So it was tough to leave. I had a lot of great friends there, and my coaching staff. It was tough to leave, but ultimately, I'm glad I made the move and loved my time at Holy Spirit.
Do you remember, Coach, the exact moment where you made the decision? Sometimes when you're making a big life decision like that, you can kind of, you know it in your heart, but you're trying to convince yourself of it, and then you finally do. What's that like? I know I was kind of in the same position. I got laid off from the Press of Atlantic City. I kind of always knew I wanted to do a high school sports magazine, and my brother just kept telling me, dude, go for it. And I wasn't really ready in my mind, and one day I was like, that's it, man, I'm going for it. So take me back to that moment in your life when you said, all right, the next 10 to 15 years of my life are going to be devoted to this.
Yeah. It was a tough decision because it was late. It was, I believe, we were already into September, and I could remember at the time we were in the weight room. I remember guys on the team like AJ Martinez and Mike Adams, who runs BPC over in Pleasantville, were on my team at Holy Spirit, and that was the toughest part, was knowing that I was going to have to talk to those guys at some point. But I remember when I got the call from the athletic director at the time, Bob Amundsen. It was on a weekend, and which really wasn't great because I wasn't going to have a chance to see the Holy Spirit guys. But I told him I would get back to him. I went home and talked to my wife, and but I knew as soon as he made that call, for whatever reason, as soon as I got off the phone with him, I was going to accept the position. I just had that feeling in my gut, that it was the right thing, and in my opinion, the college only had to go up as far as athletically and on the baseball program. So I was excited for that challenge.
I guess it makes it a little bit easier when they offer you a 10-year, $30 million contract, right?
Yeah. I talked them up from $27 million. But, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, sometimes at that level, you're buying your own baseballs, right?
Yeah, baseball's such a funny sport. Even if you look at the Division I level, there's just not a whole lot of money in college baseball, and it's represented in the amount of scholarships that are offered at the Division I level, which the NCAA needs to get a better grasp on. But I think baseball guys are a little nuts. I think they're unique people, and it's really. The game is the most frustrating game in the world, but it's also the most rewarding. So you got to really do it, because you love it, because you're never going to be paid for it.
We're talking with Cumberland County College baseball coach Keith Gorman, and Coach, I talk fairly regularly to some of the JUCO guys around here. One of your assistants, Mike Freund, as well as the guys from Atlantic Cape, Rod Velarde and Bert Rosca, and talking to Bert a lot. I see him every once in a while, run into him at Wawa, that kind of thing. And I think there's a little bit of a misconception sometimes among high school athletes about community college or junior college baseball, and how good of a vehicle that can be for a guy to get into a college baseball program. Because a lot of times when you're a high school player and you sign, to go to a 4-year college, you might be sitting the bench for a year or two behind. Yeah. They might have a junior at your position, and he's got 2 more years to go. So JUCO baseball can be a great opportunity to go play right away, get some notoriety, get some experience, and really be a nice stepping stone. And you see that with a guy like Donnie Stone from Oakcrest, one of your guys who chose Cumberland County, played a year or two there, and kind of parlayed that into a Division I offer from, I believe, Marist, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a great stepping stone. I think people would be surprised about how good the baseball really is. I mean, we've got 3 arms right now that are potential draft guys, in the next couple of weeks. One probably for sure, and we're not the only ones in the region like that. And Donnie Stone is a great example. I mean, there's a young man who had some interest from some Division IIIs and maybe a couple of Division IIs, but he really wanted to give it a shot and see what kind of options he could have out there. And then, I couldn't be happier for him. He's going to be paying, a very minimal amount of tuition. I mean, I think his scholarship's around 98% at Marist, which is tremendous. And you just don't get that kind of scholarship offer out of high school typically. The thing that Donnie has going for him, like all junior college players, is that he is a proven college player. Marist knows that they're going to get a kid they can stick in right away and get production from. You don't always know that from a 17-year-old you're getting out of high school. So it's a risky investment for some of these colleges. Baseball is especially at the junior college level, is a really, really great option, for everyone, not just someone who struggled academically, but also a high academic student as well. In my opinion, they need to pursue baseball for as long as they can until it's taken away from them. And at the same time, they're still getting a great education because they are going to have to work someday.
Yeah. Are you there, Coach?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, looking back on my own life, it probably would have been a much better decision for me. I ended up going to Monmouth my first year, didn't make the team, transferred down to Pfeiffer, North Carolina, made the team there as a walk-on, then ended up sitting 2 years. So I basically didn't really even play for the better part of 3 years when I could have gone to maybe Ocean County College or something like that and played 2 years, gotten myself 75, 100 at bats and been ready for the next level. So I think a lot of kids don't really understand that sometimes when you go to a 4-year college, you might have to ride the pines when you were a star in high school. And when you go to a junior college and you're able to play a little bit more, even some of the guys that you have as reserves are getting, 30, 40, 50 at bats in a season.
I think, your example is a great example. I mean, I think one of the biggest things for high school kids getting into college baseball, and one of the reasons sometimes they sit for a couple of years, and you know how that goes. Life happens, and then all of a sudden they want to be a college student, and they stop playing. But one of the biggest things that high school kids struggle when they go to college, and especially if you take a 17-year-old going to the ACC or the SEC or one of the Power 5 conferences, is the speed of the college game. People don't always understand how much faster the college game is than the high school game. Guys run better. They throw harder. Just all around, it is a major adjustment for high school players to make. The speed of the game is double what it was in high school, and not everybody can catch up right away. So getting some extra practice time in the fall that junior colleges allow, is a great way to kind of bridge that gap.
If you're just joining us, welcome into the South Jersey Sports Report. We're talking with Cumberland County College baseball coach Keith Gorman, former head coach at Holy Spirit, and has been doing a great job with the Dukes for the last 8 years. And, Coach, pretty good amount of Cape Atlantic League flavor on this roster. Just taking a look at some of the guys, Jaquez Colon from Vineland, Ryan McIsaac from Millville. Dylan Scaranda has been a great story from Absegam. He didn't really get a lot of offers out of high school, and he's become probably your best hitter. We talked about Donnie Stone, Nick Milhan from EHT, the Hilleshine boys from GAMI. So a lot of guys from the Cape Atlantic League. You also recruit heavily. I was talking to Mike, in the greater Philadelphia area, some of those schools outside of Philly. And so what's it like trying to build a roster every – because the thing about junior college is – once a kid's a sophomore, he's gone. You have to keep replacing and recruiting every year, so you don't have a guy for 4 years. So that makes it kind of you got to be a good, not necessarily a salesman, but a good networker, I guess.
Yeah, it's ongoing, and they just as quick as they're in, they're out. So we've got to keep the train going. I mean, we had a busy day yesterday preparing for this weekend, and we had 2 recruits on campus yesterday. It seems like this time of year there's multiple guys. There'll be a couple of guys here this morning, but yeah. So we've got a good network out there. I think we've got a very good reputation in South Jersey, and the evidence is there. Our guys are moving on and doing well at the next level. We've also got a very good network in Philadelphia. We've had some great players from the Philly area over the years, and we've got some here on the roster now. But very proud of the Cape Atlantic League guys, and I think this is the most Cape Atlantic League guys we've ever had on the team. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the Cape Atlantic League, and sometimes it's hidden. Dylan Scaranda is a great story. I don't know that anybody was recruiting him. Former coach, Coach Wapstel, who I've been friends with a long time, gave me a call. We came out, loved Dylan. He's a lot more athletic than people give him credit for. And he's committed to Campbell University, a great Division I baseball program down in the Big South Conference. He's going to do a tremendous job down there. He's got some power. He's a corner third baseman. He's a very good defensive player. So very excited for him. And you mentioned a bunch of the other Cape Atlantic League guys. Another one is Jose Rodriguez, who we call JoJo. Vineland High School graduate, was really not recruited by anybody. He's going to have to pay less than $5,000 a year next year to go to St. John's, who's obviously a top 50 program in the country. JoJo's going to do a fantastic job for St. John's next year, and very, very happy and proud of him as well. So some bunch of great players in South Jersey. We're fortunate to be able to coach and fortunate to be able to move on to bigger and better things.
Coach, now that it's, we're coming up on 2020, you got to get involved with some of these technology and media students and get some hype videos going.
So we've done a little bit of that. I think my assistant coach Jonathan Diamco, and he's also the assistant athletic director, would like. I maybe sometimes I stifle those, but we definitely need to do a little bit better job with that. I don't know that I'm much the hype person, but I'm sure I can find somebody to do that for me.
Well, when you're coaching a junior college in South Jersey, I mean, you kind of always have to be promoting yourself and marketing yourself and trying to get kids interested in coming there. So I'm sure there's kind of a whole sort of a marketing plan in terms of reaching out to these kids and getting them to understand what it is you guys do and how valuable it can be to them.
Oh, absolutely. And we do. We are in the business of, we have to promote we're in the business of recruitment. So we need to put ourselves out there and also show the value that we bring to any high school or college transfer student athlete. I think one of the biggest things we do is when we get them on campus, we have a good reputation now, so it's a little bit easier to get them on campus than it was, 8 years ago. But we have a nice brochure that we just show where all the guys are going. We have a ton of guys out there playing college baseball right now at all different levels, including pro balls. So those are the stories we want to share with our potential recruits. Is look at where these guys are at now. That's going to be you someday. If you come in, you buy in, you change your body in the weight room, you develop through our practice system, that's going to be you someday. And that's the biggest selling tool, because not everybody has that. Not everybody has the type of success we've had in terms of moving players on to really great four-year universities and also pro ball.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Cumberland County College baseball coach Keith Gorman. And Coach, when you're coaching junior college baseball, it's a lot different than a four-year school. I mean, these guys some of them are working 25, 30, 40 hours a week. They're trying to get their studies in order, the right classes taken so they can get to a four-year college. There's a lot going on in their lives as young men. So what's the biggest challenge in that regard, where you have guys who are, maybe coming from Egg Harbor Township down to Vineland every day for practice? They're trying to get out of work. They're trying to, redo their schedule certain days. A rain out might cause a problem with a job, that kind of thing. So there's a lot going on with community college baseball.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, these guys have so much on their plate. In the way we run things here, it's not easy. With the amount of games we play, with our weight room schedule, practice schedule, these guys really have to love the game, because there's going to be times where they don't. And I talk to them about that all the time. That sometimes you just got to get through it, and it's a great test, of character to get through the days you don't really want to get through. But the biggest way we combat all of these distractions and not so much distractions, but just all the items on their plate is communication. We have to communicate really well with our professors. They have to communicate really well with the coaching staff, with the advisors, and also their jobs. You mentioned Nick Hilsheim down at Absegami, who's having a tremendous year for us on the mound. He's got a couple offers that he'll be deciding on. I mean, he's a young man that works the night shift down in Denny's in Galloway sometimes. So, the biggest challenge that we have with these guys is making sure they're sleeping enough and eating properly, which is not easy. That is a huge piece of what we do here with the weight room and with keeping their body in shape. But if they can't get sleep and they're running from job to class to practice, it's hard to eat right. It's really easy to pull up to the dollar McDonald's value menu, which I probably do too much as well. But that's the biggest challenge, is just making sure that they eat right and they sleep. So, which is not easy.
Coach, real quick before we let you go, it is Mother's Day weekend, and everybody knows that if you're married to a baseball coach, you're pretty much the mistress and baseball is the wife. So I wanted to give you a quick platform to tell us about your wife real quick and how much she's meant to you and your success over the years. Nobody does it alone. So here's your opportunity to get in good graces. I'm gonna hook you up here, Coach.
Well, Mike Freund's wife gave my wife a sign that is hung up prominently in our living room that says, "Please pardon this marriage for baseball season." So that is exactly what goes on. My wife Emily, we have 3 young kids at home who are a handful. She is pretty much raising them on her own during baseball season, taking them to all their events. I love her so much and am thankful for her. I could not do what I'm doing out here without her. And I appreciate the time you gave me. I'm hoping she's listening this morning. But I appreciate the help here.
Well, hey, she's now somewhat famous in South Jersey, as thousands of people have just heard what you said about her. So with any luck, that'll get you some good graces tomorrow and into the coming weeks. That's right. And if she is listening, for the record, she's way smarter than me. So. Coach, appreciate your time, man. I'll see you out there later this afternoon. I want to catch some of those playoff games, and good luck in the rest of the postseason. We really appreciate you taking the time this morning and kind of filling us in on junior college baseball and everything it's meant to you.
Great, Sully. Hey, thanks for all the coverage you do for everybody in South Jersey. We really appreciate it, and thanks for having me today. We'll see you soon.
No problem. Thanks, Coach.